Well, hi guys. As you will see here, we have a new addition to our altar this morning. It's not an antique or anything, but I've stumbled on this beautiful Manjushri Bodhisattva on the lion this week. And I thought we have to have that here. You know, that's traditional in a Zen room to actually not have the Buddha statue, to have a Manjushri. And the Buddha statue would be in a separate building or room for the ceremonies. There are actually three main halls in a Buddhist monastery. There's where they sit, Zazen. This would have Manjushri, who's the Bodhisattva of wisdom. The Buddha hall would have a Buddha. They would do ceremonies there. And then there would be another hall for the abbot to lecture on Zen. And that has nothing. It's an empty space on the altar. Sometimes the abbot sits on the altar because he represents Buddha. You see. Now, our space here, being compact, is all in one. So Manjushri will be sharing space with our Buddha statue. They don't mind. The room is boundless, right? So there's plenty of room. Manjushri, of course, represents wisdom, which is very fitting for Zen room, right? The lion, again, like the tiger I was last week. By the way, no costumes this week, no politics. You know, we're just sitting zazen this week. Nothing like that. But the lion is the same as the tiger last week. The ferocity, the stick-to-itiveness of the lion is what is represented here. Now, of course, the Chinese, this is Chinese style, the Chinese had not actually seen many lions when they designed the lion, which you can tell. You should see the other Bodhisattva, Samantabhadra, sits on an elephant. And that elephant looks like they hadn't seen an elephant either. It's basically a very skinny Great Dane with a long nose. But anyway, this is Samantabhadra. She usually carries, she can carry a lotus flower. Today she's carrying a rui, like the stick. She's carrying something very much like this, which was just a scepter that the aristocrats, including the abbot, would carry in China. You see, she has one right there. And I recently found out what this started as. I always break all the illusions. Do you know what the rui started as in China? The noble people would sit there. It was originally a back scratcher. I'm serious. Huh? Because the nobles would sit there. But anyway, it became a scepter, you see. And she's carrying the scepter. Sometimes I say she because it's usually a he, but he and she no longer matters. Like canon, he, she or he usually carries the sword of wisdom, just like I spoke about last week, that cuts into one. Yes, not a sword of violence. Sometimes a lotus flower. But here, he's carrying a rui, just like this one, which I will replace back. Now, I'm going to place Monju. That's the Japanese name, which also has another meaning here in Japan. Are you familiar with the other meaning of Monju?
Biscuit.
What did you say?
Biscuit.
No. I'll tell you. They named one of the nuclear reactors Monju.
Oh, okay.
Yes, which I always thought was a strange choice of name for a nuclear reactor. But one of the, that's what usually if you say Monju here in Japan, people think of either the Bodhisattva or the experimental nuclear reactor that's here. In any event, we'll place Manjushri on the altar right now, and we'll have a little eye-opening ceremony. Very brief. I just traditionally you literally open the eyes and you bring life to the statue. Just symbolically, we take a writing brush and you paint in the eye, like they do on the Dharma doll. You know, they paint in the eye. I'm not going to actually apply any ink, but I will open the eye of Manjushri and I guess the lion too. And we'll do that right now. I'm going to tell you the other thing is, it will mean we're down to one candle here. Instead of our usual tradition of 10 years or more of 2 candles. So that means 2 things. Number one is, if it's dark in here, you'll know why. The other reason is, instantly cut our candle budget in half. Thank you, Manjushri. Saving all that money on candles, she'll pay for herself in just another 10 years, I think. It'll be. The other thing is today we are going to try to use the powdered incense, you may notice. I usually just wave the incense because actually last time I tried to use the powdered incense, people said it was too smoky. So if it's too smoky, let me know. But I'm going to try to use the powdered incense and the stick incense too, which you may notice a little different from the way I just usually move the incense smoke today. Okay? Manjushri, are you ready to go? That was a yes. That was a yes. Danny?
Yes.
How are you feeling? Good?
Very good.
Okay. How's that? Does that work there? Good. Okay. I'll now take my brush and we will have a little eye opening. All right. All right. Well, if you've been here before, you know what to do. And if it's your first time, just follow along. We're a small, intimate gang this morning. Just us, a couple of folks at home, and Manjushri.
Maka hanya haramita shingyo. Kanji zaibo sachiyo gyojin hanya haramita jisho gengo onkai gudoi saibu yakushari shishige The identity of relative and absolute. The mind of the great sage of India is intimately conveyed west and east, while human faculties are both wise or dull, in the way there are no northern nor southern ancestors. The subtle shore shines clear in the light, the branching streams flow in the dark. To be attached to things is primordial illusion. To encounter the absolute is not yet enlightenment. All spheres, every sense and feel, intermingling as they shine alone, interacting even as they merge, yet keeping their places and expressions of their own. Sights different primarily in shape and character, and sounds in harsh or soothing tones. The dark makes all words one. The brightness distinguishes good and bad phrases. The four elements return to their true nature as a child turns to its mother. Fire is hot, water is wet, wind moves, and the earth is dense. Eye and form, ear and sound, nose and smell, tongue and taste, the sweet and sour, each independent of the other, like leaves that come from the same root. And though leaves and roots must go back to the source, both roots and leaves have their own uses. Light is also darkness, but do not think it of as darkness. Darkness is light, do not see it as light. Light and darkness are not one, not two, like the foot before and the foot behind in walking. Each thing has its own being, which is not different from its place and function. The relative fits the absolute as a box and its lid. The absolute meets the relative, like two arrow points that touch in midair. Hearing this simply perceive what is, make no criterion. If you do not see the way, you do not see it even as you walk upon it. Walking forward in the way, you draw no nearer, progress no further. One who fails to see this truth is mountains and rivers away. Listen, those who would perceive this subtle matter. Live well your time by night and day. Buddha nature pervades the whole universe, reality existing right here and now. In reciting the heart of the perfection of Great Wisdom Sutra and the identity of relative and absolute, we dedicate our sincere efforts to Shakyamuni Buddha, honored one, the historical Buddha and teacher, and to those ancestral teachers. Hey, Dogen, honored one, Soji Keizan, honored one, all successive honored ones up until Zuigaku Rempo, honored one, and Gudo Wafu, honored one, and to all other honored ones throughout history, male and female honored ones, whose names have been forgotten or left unsaid. We also dedicate to the three treasures, Buddha, Dharma, Sangha, to all awakened ones and teachers in all places and times. We especially seek tranquility and well-being for all creatures now suffering or ill in health. May they be serene through all their ills. May their lives be of peace and wisdom pervade the darkness of ignorance. We dedicate our hopes and aspirations to all victims of war and violence and natural events, to the injured and to all families touched by these tragedies, to the healing of hatred in all countries and among all peoples, to the wisdom and compassion of our world leaders, to the peace of the world and harmony of all beings. Thus let the harmful effects of words, thoughts, and actions be dispelled, and compassion bloom and perpetual spring. May we all realize and live the enlightened way together. Om Buddhas throughout space and time. Om Bodhisattva Mahasattva Mahavrajna Paramita.
We'll dedicate today especially to Taishi, who's a bit under the weather, some other folks who have written. Zazen? Get him? Zazen? We will have a long ginhin. left you here. You thought I forgot you, didn't you? I'm just going to put some tea in a bit. Now they're ready. Here's the paper. We will have a little talk followed by Zazen. Let me close the door a little. 1 second. Shall we have the verse to open the sutras?
profound and infinitely subtle, is always encountered yet rarely perceived. Now we see, hear, receive, and maintain this. May we all realize the Tathagata's true meaning. The Dharma, incomparably profound and infinitely subtle, is always encountered yet rarely perceived. Now we see, hear, receive, and maintain this. May we all realize the Tathagata's true meaning. The Dharma, incomparably profound and infinitely subtle, is always encountered yet rarely perceived. Now we see, hear, receive, and maintain this. May we all realize the Tathagata's true meaning.
Well, lovely. Fall is here. It's a little brisk here in the Zendo. Danny's wrapped up like an Eskimo a bit. Our new Manjusri statue doesn't seem to mind the cold. We continue this time with reflections on the Tenzo Kyokun by Master Dogen, the instructions for the cook. But joining us today, we have folks who do many things besides cooking for their living. We have a laboratory researcher. We have computer folks. We have a submariner, right? We have teachers. We have folks who are translators, writers, store clerks, all kinds of folks. Well, this is for all of you, not just for the cook. Now, I want you to, for a moment, just sit back and let's just jump back to about 800 years ago, almost exactly, the year 1223. Dogen is 23 years old, and he's all gung-ho, actually a word that came from Chinese, gung-ho. He's all excited, finally get to China. He's made a crossing on a ship, not so easy in those days to book passage, rough weather. He had to arrange financing, and the ship arrives. He and his mentor Myozen. Myozen apparently has all his paperwork in order, has made arrangements to go to a certain monastery, and Myozen goes off, leaving Dogen on the boat. Because apparently Dogen was an illegal immigrant and did not have all his paperwork in order. That's the best guess what happened. But whatever happened, Dogen was stuck in port on that boat. They wouldn't let him off the boat for several weeks. Perhaps it was by choice. Perhaps he was waiting for something. But I think there was something that Dogen forgot his passport, something. So he's sitting there. But fortunately, it became an opportunity for one of the great stories in the Tenzo Kyokun. Last month, we closed with Dogen meeting one Tenzo, who, if you remember, was in the hot sun. And Dogen said, "Fellow, why are you doing this? And why are you doing it now in the hot sun, drying those mushrooms?" And the fellow said, "Young man, you obviously don't understand Zen practice. Not now, when?" Right? And this time, he meets another Tenzo. Well, he's waiting on the ship. Let me read that. In May of 1223, I was staying aboard the ship at Qingyuan Harbor. Once I was speaking with the captain when a monk about 60 years of age, quite old back then. Since I'm 58, I'll say it's quite young now, came aboard to buy mushrooms from the ship's Japanese merchants. I asked him to have tea with me and asked where he was from. He was the Tenzo from Ayu Wangshan Monastery, one of the big monasteries in that area, very famous. Later, I said, after they had had their tea, I said, as we have had the unexpected opportunity to meet and talk like this today, I would like you to stay a while longer and allow me to offer Zen Master Tenzo a meal. He responded, oh, I'm sorry, but I just can't. If I'm not there to prepare tomorrow's meal, it won't go well. Dogen responded, but surely someone else in the monastery knows how to cook. If you're not there, it can't make that much difference to everyone. The cook said, I took up this position in my later years. It is this old man's pursuit of the way. How could I hand it over to others? Besides, when I came, I did not ask to stay overnight. I again asked the cook, you are venerable in years. Why don't you sit in meditation to pursue the way or contemplate the words of the ancients? Why don't you sit zazen all the time or study? Imagine Dogen, he had come to China and he thought, I'm going to find the real Zen, which I'm going to sit zazen. We get these folks too who think it was Zen. I'm going to sit zazen. All these other things are extra. All these other practices and book study and manjushri on the altar. I had a fellow say, oh, your altar is beautiful and Japanese altars are beautiful, but so cluttered. The real altar is an empty altar. That's real Zen, empty. And I said, it is an empty altar. Can't you see? The emptiness is right there. Doesn't matter what I put there. Even a few weeks ago, I put you-know-who. It was still empty. Still Buddha. Still beautiful. That statue perhaps is a little more attractive than the other rather disturbing image we had a while back. You know who I mean. I've gotten in a little trouble on the internet for that, some people said that's not Buddha. Other people said it was just a kind of a stunt. And I said, no, you have to realize the beautiful here and that, it's the same. And it's the empty altar, you see. Anyway, getting back to the story, why don't you just study the words of the ancients and study koans and sit zazen? It is troublesome being a cook. All you do is labor. What good is that? And the cook laughed. Ha, 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 ha. My good man from a foreign country, you do not yet understand pursuit of the way, and you do not yet know about written words or the real koan, you see. So I get folks here. One fellow said, oh, I'm sorry, I haven't been that active this month. We've had all kinds of things at home. The washing machine broke, and I was surprised how much time that took, and problems at work, and fell down, and I hurt my leg. And other folks say, oh, I can't get to Zazen today. We have a lot of folks maybe would want to be here today, but they're stuck at work, or you're in your laboratory, and, oh, I wish I could be here at the Zendo just sitting. You are in the Zendo when you are at work, or when the washing machine breaks, or where you are now. Or even on Strong Waters, there used to be a submariner on his submarine, if he had the right attitude. This is the Zendo, you see. This is the practice. Now, that doesn't mean we don't sit zazen. We do, to help us realize this. But everything you do during the day is a study of the koans, a study of the Tenzo Kyokun, sitting zazen, even if you're working with mice and test tubes in your laboratory, or working with the computer, whatever you're doing. It's just your attitude right here, he said, for our podcast listeners, pointing to his head, between his ears, right here. This is where you make the sacred space, the empty space. Well, actually, my head is pretty empty, but it's where you make your zazen. It's not a matter of only sitting. That doesn't mean, by the way, that every moment you're doing your work in the laboratory, you have to be in the sacred space. Some people said, oh, I want to be mindful 24 hours a day. I always want to have that Zen shikantaza mind, no matter what I'm doing. And I say, I don't even know if that's healthy. I couldn't function with zazen mind all the time. I think that's a big misunderstanding about what it is to do our practice. But sometimes during your busy day, shikantaza, with the test tube in your hand, with the computer mouse in your hand, with your pencil or your whatever your work is, if you're an auto mechanic, with your wrench in your hand, take a moment, breathe. This is it. You see. Then get back to fixing the car or feeding the mice, whatever you're doing. I'll talk about that more in a bit, but I don't think it's a matter of you have to be in Zen mind all the time, but sometimes realize that there's no getting away from this. This is here, there, and everywhere. Anyway, let's continue. In July of the same year, I was staying at Tien Tangshan Monastery when the same Tenzo of Wangshan came to see me and said, after the summer training period, their Ango, is over, I'm going to retire as Tenzo and go back to my native region. I heard from a fellow monk that you were here, and so I came to see you and to see how you were making out. That's very nice of him. All these monasteries were in the same general area, but that was still quite a trip for him to come. I was overjoyed. I served him tea as we sat down to talk. When I brought up our discussion on the ship about words and practice, the Tenzo said, if you want to understand words, Zen words, koans, books, sutras, if you want to understand words, you must look into what words are. If you want to practice, you must understand what practice is. Speaking of the tea, Mina, please, the tea. Please bring it. Speaking of the tea, here's our Tenzo, my wife Mina. Oh, it's not going to fit? Oh, it's just going to fit? Wait, don't hit the microphone, man. You'll knock us off. Here you go. Thank you, Mina. Just perfect timing as the Dogen was having his tea. We had the tea arrive. Good. Okay, so where were we? So if you want to understand words, you must look into what words are. If you want to practice, you must understand what practice is. And I asked, what are words? The Tenzo said, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Why can't these guys just ever say anything strict? Why do they always have to talk in some secret code here? What are words? The Tenzo said, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I asked again, what is practice? The Tenzo said, everywhere. Nothing is hidden. That's a little easier to get, maybe. Please, enjoy your tea. What could that possibly mean? Later, I found a verse that ancient master Xue Do wrote for a disciple many centuries earlier. 1735, what you search for cannot be grasped. As the night deepens, the moon brightens over the ocean. The black dragon's jewel is found in every wave. Looking for the moon, it is here in this wave and the next. So what could this be? It's wonderful. I can come to you and seem so wise because of something that Master Dogen didn't have. He had an encyclopedic memory, so he could remember things. I have Google, you see. So it makes me come to you and seem so smart, you see. I can say things. So of course I said, I wonder what other commentators have said about But basically, this is the point, which I think makes a lot of sense. I always talk about the emptiness as the wholeness and the world of separation, of this and that, and you and me, and up and down, of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 things, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, a million billion things of this universe. That's what he means. What are words? Words are what we use to try to explain this world of one thing and two things and three things and all things. That is everything. See. But it's also being the cook or the researcher or the computer expert. What numbers do you deal with every day? I have to give 3 of this to the 2 mice. I have to mix this in 5 parts into 7 parts, right? The computer guy, it's all zeros and ones and twos and numbers. Calculating your submarine, strong waters, right? Your depth, your direction is all numbers. We deal in numbers. We deal in a world of things. I'm a translator. I deal in words, separate words, 1 word, 2 words, 3 words. What are words? Words are describing all the separate things, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And what is our practice? Everywhere. Nothing about this is hidden. It's not hidden in your laboratory. It's not hidden in the room where you're sitting, Onkai. It's not hidden on our altar as filled with things as it is, flowers and pictures and statues. It's not hidden. It's not even hidden in my words, which are just making this hard to understand, right? It's just here. Look, listen. It's much clearer than the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 I'm saying. Listen. So then there's this old poem, which Dogen apparently pulled up on Google. 1735. What you search for cannot be grasped. It's not a thing you can reach. It's everywhere. For our podcast listeners, reaching into the air, trying to grab it. Here. As the night deepens, the moon brightens over the ocean. The black dragon's jewel is found in every wave. This is also a traditional image for the wholeness that comes into the relative. The moon is the wholeness. And the light of the moon, when it's seen on the waves of the ocean, did you ever notice how it breaks into pieces? On every wave, there's a little bit of moon over there, sparkling over here, like a jewel, like the dragon's jewel. You see. How many pieces does it break into? 1, 7, 3, 5, but it's all the one moon. You understand? Where in this room is the one moon? Where in your room where you're sitting there, Shingen, is the one moon? Look around. It's over there with the 1, and those 3, and the 7, and the 5. It is found in every wave, says the poem. Looking for the wave? Looking for the moon, says the poem. It is here in this wave and in the next. See, not so mysterious. Very clear. Most of these Zen folks are usually talking about this relationship of the wholeness, the emptiness, coming into all the broken pieces of our lives. Some of them sharp and painful, some of them round and smooth, but the moon is reflected in all of them. Listen. Can you grab it? I'll grab it here. For our podcast listeners, he grabs his stick. It's right here. Here, listen. See? So then Dogen said, before I knew 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now I know 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Which I think is just Dogen saying before that, before I had half a picture, now I get the whole thing. Now I understand what he was talking about. Monks, you and those to follow must understand practice and words through this and from that, because practice is in this and it's in that, whatever your day is. When you do this, go to the store, that's your practice. When you do that, go to the doctor, that's your practice. Exert yourself in this way, and your practice will practice. Exert yourself in this way, and you will practice the single true taste of Zen beyond words, undivided into the poisonous 5 flavors. That means our divided thinking, when we live as divided, separate people in this world, there are 5 poisons, which he calls here because it's about to cook the 5 poisonous flavors, which are what we always talk about here: excess desire, anger, divided thinking. Those are the basic 3, plus they add 2 here, which are really kind of come from those: pride and jealousy. Egotism and jealousy. Okay? So he's saying if you taste the wholeness, it frees you from excess desire, right? Because you feel full and complete, from anger, from divided thinking. Then you will be able to prepare food for the monastic community properly. And then you will be able to do your work properly. When you can taste in all the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of your laboratory or your office or your shop, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is the shining moon. It will free you from your anger, your feeling of lack, your resentment and broken thinking, comparisons and pride and jealousy and feeling something's missing. Okay? So try that next time when you go to work. You don't have to do it all the time, as I said. I can't do it all the time. Usually I'm just doing my job like everybody else, man, trying to meet the deadline. I got to go. I can't be Zen now. Time is money, right? But every day, 101 times, I'm going to say this about myself. I do this 101 times without a plan. I just say, Zen mind now, and it just comes. I could be eating a donut. I could be waiting at a stoplight, listening to a podcast. I could be stubbing my toe on a rock. I could be anything. Suddenly I say, let's just shikantaza this for a moment. And it changes everything. Changes everything. Actually, it changes nothing because the situation is still the same. Same donut, same stub toe, same traffic light, same problem at work. But it instantly changes everything because the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 becomes the shining moon, and the 5 poisons turn to sweetness. Okay. That's what I recommend to you. You don't have to do it 24/7, just a few times a day. Okay, but time is money. I'm looking at the clock here. I got to get going. We got a lot to cover. This is the second half of our talk, by the way. Those who didn't catch it last month, you can go back. You don't have to take it in order. We have our podcast, The Miracle of Modern Technology. You can catch part 1 of the Tenzo Kyokun from last month. Dogen says, even if you become the abbot of a monastery, you should have the same understanding. The Zen monastic standards state, prepare each meal with each detail kept clear so that there will be enough. Make sure that the 4 offerings of food, clothing, bedding, and medicine are adequate, just as the generous one the Buddha offered to his disciples the merit of 20 years of his lifetime. We ourselves live today within the light of that gift because the energy of even a white hair between his brows is inexhaustible. The image of a Buddha, there was like a light that emanated from a white hair. I've got some white hairs here because I just forgot to shave this morning. But in other words, getting back to practice here, your job, make sure you got enough supplies, make sure the inventory is done, make sure you're on schedule, make sure, you got what you need. You got to be practical here too. You can't just be, all Zen. You got to make sure you got enough food, clothing, bedding, and medicine for all those monks who are in your charge. You have staff under your supervision, right? You're responsible for them. Guess what? That's your practice. Okay. Next, in preparing food, it is essential to be sincere and to respect each ingredient, regardless of how coarse or fine it is. There is the example of the old woman who gained great merit through offering water in which she had rinsed the rice to the thus come one, the Buddha. In other words, again, this Tenzo Kyokun emphasizes if life hands you plump, ripe tomatoes, make a wonderful soup, and if it hands you bitter greens, make a wonderful soup of bitter greens. Meaning, if your life hands you cake, health, and youth, maybe the stock market went up for you that day, whatever you're doing. I don't give stock advice here, but you get my point. That's your life. And if one day you're down to your last penny and not so healthy and things are not going so well for you, make a rich soup with that. Don't only want to win and to have human success. Realize that life is the soup we make with what it hands us. So this old woman, she didn't have a lot. All she had, literally, she was a poor woman. She had the water left from when she had cleaned the rice. And you could use it for something. I think the monks might use it to starch their robe. I'm not sure what they would use the water for, but she gave the water to the Buddha, not as like an insult, meaning that this is what I have. And there are other stories here about a young boy who was playing. He only had some dirt. He was playing as his toy. He handed it to the Buddha. Someone handed, we'll see, a broken pot lid. King Ashoka was the king, and he was down on his luck. He had lost everything on his deathbed. He only had a pit of a fruit. He gave it with all sincerity. And King Ashoka, one of the great Buddhist kings, creating roots of wholesomeness through offering half a mango to a monastery as he lay dying, because that's all he had. Even the grandest offering to the Buddha, if insincere, is worth less than the smallest sincere offering in bringing about a connection with awakening. This is how human beings should conduct themselves. In other words, whatever you do, if you're sincere and you're good intentioned about it, it's an offering. It doesn't literally have to be money to the Buddha. Just if you're helping people in your life as a bodhisattva or trying to do your job with sincerity, it's an offering. If you're kind to someone and all you have, you give with a good heart, it's an offering. Let me continue. A rich buttery soup is not better as such than a broth of crude wild herbs. In handling and preparing wild herbs, do so as you would the ingredients for a rich feast, wholeheartedly, sincerely, clearly. When you serve the monastic assembly, they and you should taste only the flavor of the ocean of reality, the ocean of unobscured, awake awareness. Not whether or not the soup is creamy or made only of wild, bitter herbs. In nourishing the seeds of living in the way, rich food and wild grass are not separate. There is an old saying, the mouth of a monk is like a furnace. Bear this in mind. This is a traditional image that a fiery furnace doesn't protest what you put in there. You can put in some riches, you can put in money, you can put in trash, you could put in a bomb. Well, it'll blow up the furnace if you do that, but the furnace does not protest to whatever fuel you put in there. So the mouth of a monk in eating is like a furnace. We do our oryoki meal with shugen here every month or so. You eat with what is ever in your bowl. I just saw a wonderful documentary about the monks literally in China, literally going door to door and knocking, and the people would bring out their food. And some of the people would say they were poor people, and they'd say, all we have is the rice from last night. You don't want that. It's all, it's hard. Give it to me. We'll take it. Thank you. Oh, I have a lovely piece of cake. Oh, put the cake in the bowl. Oh, we have some. These are okay, but they're getting a little old. We'll take it. Thank you. You're so generous. So from what I saw, they don't quite mix it all together, but they kind of take the beautiful cake and the hard vegetables and the hard rice, and they kind of divide it up, and the monks just eat it. Beautiful cake, crunchy rice, bitter vegetable. Their mouths are like furnaces. It's a beautiful practice. The modern version is the street retreat, which Bernie Glassman does. I don't know if they do this all the time, but they have done dumpster diving, which sounds like terrible. They don't eat unhealthy food. What they've discovered is in places like New York, the best restaurants with the greatest chefs from the Michelin Guide put out their food that just didn't work that night. Or you go to the grocery store, the can is just 1 day old. They put it out there. They're throwing out the bakery, how much they bake all this extra bread, they throw it out. You go in the dumpster, beautiful, fresh food. We're so wasteful. And they take it as part of their retreat because their mouths are like furnaces, you see. It's not unhealthy. They're not taking something to get food poisoning. But how wasteful we are. Okay. Do not discriminate between the faults or virtues of the monks or whether they are senior or junior. I like this one because just in the workplace, we all got the complaint about that guy who drives us crazy, or the boss. Oh, he's a wonderful boss, but that other boss, oh, that guy, I've heard you. Oh, I'm sorry. Maybe someone's listening. She never says that. She loves all her coworkers and bosses. Danny always tells me, and I'm sure all of you do too. But, we all work in places where that guy drives me crazy. Oh, no. Of course, this is human relations, but here, Dogen is saying, treat them all as Buddha. Treat them all as Buddha. Of course, in your heart, you know that guy's a pain in the neck, and you got to deal with it. And that guy is going to be trouble. You got to watch him. Of course, on a practical level, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, you got to do that. But in the grand scheme of things, also recognize that inside, they're all Buddha. So Dogen says, do not discriminate between the faults or virtues of the monks or whether they are senior or junior. You do not even know where you stand, so how can you put others into categories? Judging others from within the boundaries of your own opinions, how could you be anything other than wrong? Although there are differences between the seniors and juniors, all are equally members of the assembly. Those who had many faults yesterday may correct and clear them today. Who can judge sacred from common? Okay? But if you read other sections of the Shobo Genzo in his other writings, he was a tough manager. He kicked people out of the monastery sometimes for really breaking a rule. He, would complain about his monks. He's talking on one level here. You got to deal with these people, and they have to deal with you too, believe me. I'm no easy person, I think, to work with sometimes for other people. Maybe I drive them crazy. Not you, Shingen, right? I'm just great, right? Never cause you a problem, headache, right? Okay. But always see them too beyond that, okay? Next. When we train in any of the offices of the monastery, there's not just the cook, there's the accountants. They had to have an accountant, the inventory guy, the manager, the guest relations guy. There's aspects, they're always dealing with visitors, right? When we train in any of the offices of the monastery, we should do so with a joyful heart, a motherly heart, and a vast heart. These are the 3 hearts. I'll read this quickly. A joyful heart rejoices and recognizes meaning. You should consider that were you to be born in the realm of the shining beings, you would be absorbed in indulgence with the qualities of that realm so that you would not rouse the recognition of uncovering the way and so have no opportunity to practice. What this is talking about is in traditional views of rebirth, you could be born as a god where everything's cotton candy and you get all your wishes. And from a Buddhist view, it's actually not a good thing. It's better to be human. They're so content and happy that they can't practice. You need the hardships of life to have something to practice with. And if you're in hell too, you're so absorbed with your hate and anger and jealousy, you can't practice too. To be human is to be right on that razor's edge, that cutting edge, you see. So that if you were in heaven there, how could you use cooking as an offering to the three jewels? This life we live is a life of rejoicing. This body is a body of joy which can be used to present offerings to the three jewels, Buddha, Dharma, Sangha. It arises through the merits of eons, and using it thus, its merits extend endlessly. I hope that you will work and cook in this way, using this human body, which is the fruition of thousands of lifetimes and births, to create limitless benefit for numberless beings. To understand this opportunity is a joyous heart, because even if you have been born a ruler of the world, the merit of your actions would merely disperse like foam, like sparks. You know, it's all going to go off. Anything we do here is just going to go off into the cosmos someday. You know, it has all the meaning in the world right now. And whether you believe in literal rebirth of thousands and thousands of countless lives, you've had them all your life. You're reborn constantly. Whatever happened when you were a child or older or a teenager or yesterday or 5 minutes ago, your past lives begin from now. And you have this human body. This week, how you use it in a good way. If you were the richest person in the world, a king, it might actually keep you from doing what you can do, being in that middle place where you are right now. Okay? Human beings, middle class on the rebirth scale. It's good to be. Not too rich, not too poor, just right. Okay? In spirituality. Next, a motherly heart, sometimes called a grandmotherly heart, is a heart which maintains the three jewels as a parent cares for a child. A parent raises a child with deep love, regardless of poverty or difficulties. Their hearts cannot be understood by another. Only a parent can understand it. You know, if that parent has no food and the child's hungry, the parent still gives the food to the child. Most good parents would do that. A parent protects their child from heat or cold before worrying about whether they themselves are hot or cold. This kind of care can only be understood by those who have given rise to it and realized only by those who practice it. This brought to its fullest is how you must care for water and rice, as though they were your own children, written by a man who, as far as we know, had no children. This is not about literal children. He cared for his monks in this way, as his family. And you have people in your life, whether you have children who are children or children who don't, you have people in your life, in your office, in your family. Care for them in this way. You know, it doesn't say necessarily you have to starve yourself, but you take care of others and you take care of yourself too. And then vast heart. Vast heart is like a great expanse of ocean or a towering mountain. It views everything from the most inclusive and broad perspective. This vast heart does not regard a gram as too light or 5 kilos as too heavy. It does not follow the sounds of spring or try to nest in a spring garden. In other words, you don't always want the nice weather. You don't always care if life gives you enough or not enough. There's something vast that's beyond all measure, beyond enough or not enough, beyond spring weather or too hot or too cold. There's something transcendent of all that. It does not darken with the colors of autumn. See the changes of the seasons as all one movement. Understand light and heavy in relation to each other within a view which includes both. The great wholeness that includes everything. When you write or study the character vast or boundless, this is how you should understand its meaning. The great masters who were Tenzo through the ages have studied the meaning of vast or great, not only through the word for it, but through all the events and activities of their lives. All the events and activities of your life are vast and boundless, if you can see it as so. Thus they lived as a great shout of freedom through presenting the great matter, penetrating the great question, training great disciples, and in this way bringing it all forth for us. And that includes you right there. Okay? Pretty clear. Recorded in the spring of the 3rd year of the Kate era, 1237, as instruction for accomplished practitioners of the way in the future. And that means you and me. The Tenzo Kyoku. Any questions, guys? Some cooking tips? Nothing? Nothing?
Many things is difficult to put them into words. So I find it a very good reminder. It's more like a comment. So I find it a very good reminder that people around us or situations around us that are difficult, that are not easy to solve, that they are meant to teach us to accept difficulties and to learn from it.
Absolutely. That doesn't mean it's always an easy lesson. Absolutely. Okay. On that beautiful comment, shall we have a short sit? Remembering that, as Dogen said, in vast mind, it's not a matter of long or short. Shall we close the sutras? Shingen?
May the merits of these teachings penetrate into each thing and all places, so that we and every sentient being together may realize the Buddha's way. All Buddhas throughout space and time. All Bodhisattvas, Mahasattva, Maha, Prajna, Paramita.
Okay. A neither long nor short sit. We will have a not long, not short kinhin, which also with the vast mind doesn't go near or far. You see. Actually, it goes both near and far. And everything in between. All right. It's Maha Hokey Pokey time. I said we were going to be very serious in our zazen this time. No costume, no. But you can't do that all the time. So this, our Hokey Pokey this time, our guest Hokey Pokey leader is Elmo from Sesame Street, which I believe is sufficiently. You know Elmo.
No.
Oh, you don't know? You know something. This will be Elmo. This is actually the from the 1980s. I believe they were selling the Elmo Hokey Pokey doll, dancing doll, who will be leading our Hokey Pokey today. Now, because this is short, I'll be playing it twice. And Elmo Hokey Pokey goes arm, leg, and then stop. So then we'll do the other arm and leg. I'll play it a second time. Okay? You're going to love it. You don't know Elmo? They have to have Elmo in Germany.
Probably, but it might be after my time.
Okay. Everybody there at home knows Elmo? Wave if you know Elmo. Okay. All right. I'll post it later. You can see. Okay. Oh, wait. Okay, here we go. Oh, wait a second. Somebody's. Wait. Oh. nothing to worry about American technology as long as we can still make the Elmo doll. You know. Okay. All right.
Healthy music for a child's heart, body, and
Okay. London. also have a long pinhead. A little long pinhead, not too long, not too short. Like in between pinhead. Next week is little key. friend in the scuba just brought this from Tibet. He also brought me yak butter yogurt candy. The incense is much better. Probably tastier. No offense to it. Yak butter yogurt. Does it sound? You ever had it? I guess I'll have a Want to stand or sit? Or we have some of the Halloween candy left. Help yourself. I got lots. Oh boy, we had another Halloween party here last. Did you guys hear? Where'd you go? Okay. So we had another Halloween party here last year for the older kids, and so lots of candy. Not good for people. You know, all things in moderation. Okay. There you go. Oh, Joyo, making a special guest appearance. Lovely. Good to see you. Canadians win today. Yes. Well, it's time for our metaverses. By the way, I'm one of the few Americans. I still speak to Canadians. It's time for the metaverses. And this is, as you know, a lovely tradition that has become very appreciated in many Zen groups in the West. It's from South Asia. And some people, and I agree, it softens a little bit the hard samurai Japanese approach to Zen. It's but metta, people have said, is metta found in Japanese Zen too. And of course, there's compassion and there's caring. That's through all of Buddhism. And we have our chance, to help all the sentient beings and wishing people to be healthy and to know peace. Oh, it's all in there. There's nothing about the metta chants that's not in our traditional Japanese Zen practice. It's just there's something about the metaverses that, I don't know, says it straight. It's beautifully. And for that reason, it's become very much appreciated. As you know, we begin with ourself. There's nothing wrong with wishing yourself peace and contentment and ease in life. And next, but it's a circle, you see, so it's not really next. But next we recite for someone we love, then a friend, then a stranger, maybe someone you passed, maybe someone you can't even remember passing this week in a store, on the street. Then the hard one, the difficult person in your life or the world, and then all sentient beings. Okay? Any questions? All right. May I be free of suffering. May I feel safe and still. Safe in body and mind, stillness of the heart. Yeah? May I be free of enmity. May I be loving, grateful, and kind. You notice I take a little moment now. I pause because I really want to feel this in the heart. I try to summon it, the feeling of being loving, being grateful, and feeling kindness. May I be healthy and at ease in all my ills. May I be at peace, embracing all all conditions of life. Okay. Now for someone we love, someone in our family. My sister-in-law is visiting today. I'll chant for her. May she be free of suffering. May she feel safe and still. May she be free of enmity. May she be loving, grateful, and kind. May she be healthy and at ease in all her ills. May she be at peace, embracing all conditions of life. Okay. Now for a friend. I have a friend who lost part of a house in the recent hurricane in Florida. Chant for him. May he be free of suffering. May he feel safe and still. May he be free of enmity. May he be loving, grateful, and kind. May he be healthy. I'm just looking. There's so many butterflies out here. Isn't it a little late in the year for butterflies? But they're all around. Not in Japan? Oh, they're lovely. May he be healthy and at ease in all his ills. May he be at peace, embracing all conditions of life. Okay, now for a stranger, someone you barely passed. Think of all the people you passed without even noticing. Maybe they just didn't even register on you, but they're all there. May she be free of suffering. May she feel safe and still. May she be free of enmity. May she be loving, grateful, and kind. May she be healthy and at ease in all her ills. May she be at peace, embracing all conditions of life. Okay, now the hard one, the one I always have to explain. We chant for the difficult person, even the violent or harm-doing person in the world, with the idea that if we could travel back in time, maybe they would not have been so if they had known peace within. They would not have done what they did if they had known inside the anger, for example. Or we chant for other people who may be out there today. I'll tell you who I'm going to chant for. I'm going to chant for people like those folks in America who did the shooting, the bombing, not for them to say, have any kind of praise for what was done, but to say, if I could travel back a week ago or 2 weeks ago, maybe if they had known peace, it wouldn't be like this. And if there are any other people like that out there, that they may know peace. That's how the chant should be heard. Okay? May they be free of suffering. May they feel safe and still. May they be free of enmity. Oh, big time. May they be loving. Oh boy. Grateful and kind. May they be healthy and at ease in all their ills. May they be at peace, embracing all conditions of life. Okay? And finally, we'll chant for all sentient beings in the world. And I just have to include these butterflies. There's actually some bees out there too. Beautiful. May we be free of suffering. May we feel safe and still. May we be free of enmity. May we be loving, grateful, and kind. May we be healthy and at ease in all our ills. May we be at peace, embracing all conditions of life. That includes the dragonflies that are out there too. They're beautiful. All right. Shall we sit a few minutes of Zazen? You can sit where you are. You can stand. At this point, you can stand on your head if you're a yoga person. Anything you wish. I'm fine with it. Okay. We will now recite the verse of atonement and the 4 vows. Thank you. This incense was brought by a friend who went to Tibet and brought this to us. So this is dedicated to her. Whoop, whoop. A dangerous place.
All harmful words, thoughts, and acts ever committed by me since of old, on account of beginningless greed, anger, and ignorance, born of my body, mouth, and mind. Now I atone for them all. To save all sentient beings, all beings numberless, to transform all delusions inexhaustible, to perceive reality, though reality is boundless, to obtain the enlightened way, a way not attainable, to save all sentient beings, O beings numberless, to transform all delusions, though delusions inexhaustible, to perceive reality, though reality is boundless, to obtain the enlightened way, a way not attainable, to save all sentient beings, O beings numberless, to transform all delusions, though delusions inexhaustible, to perceive reality, though reality is boundless, to obtain the enlightened way, a way not attainable.
My job has become so easy. I only have to put out 1 candle now. Yeah, how easy. Welcome, Manjushri Bodhisattva. Thank you, Danny. Thank you, everyone there and at home. Lovely. Thank you for sitting today. Remember, daylight savings light changes, so our start times from next week also change. I apologize for that. I cannot flatten the world. Also, it's next month is Rohat Sesshin. It's already that time. Joyo, so good to see you. Onkai, thank you. Everyone at home. See you guys later. Shingen, lovely. See you guys. Thanks, Danny. Bye-bye.